The marble of the 7 hills did not merely crack under the weight of the invasion, it wept sapphire. By the year 150 of the divine Augustus, the city of Rome had ceased to be a capital of men and had become a forge of the gods. The Tiber River, once the lifeblood of the Republic, was a churning sludge of mercury and ash, reflecting the terrifying geometry of the ship that now claimed our sky. My name is General Hadrianus Vex, and I have seen the end of history written in the cold, unblinking eyes of the stars. I stood upon the ruins of the Pons Aelius, the bridge trembling beneath my greaves, and watched as the Eclipsis Prime began to descend. It was an obsidian crown of thorns, a mile wide, blocking out the sun and replacing the warmth of Italy with the freezing, sterile hum of the void. The Mirror Centurions came first. They did not fall like rain, they descended like a curtain of silver. Thousands of them, encased in reflective chrome that mimicked the very architecture they were sent to destroy, drifted down on humming gravity disks. They held flux gladii, shards of vibrating violet energy that could cleave through a Roman scutum and the man behind it as if both were made of summer mist. Praetorians, for the eternal city. Unleash the wrath of Jupiter. I roared, my voice a jagged scrap of iron against the subsonic thrum of the mothership. The walls of Rome erupted. We had spent decades preparing for this final siege, hollowing out the ancient stone to house the Jupiter scorpions. These were not the wooden engines of Caesar's day. They were gargantuan machines of bronze and captured alien cores, their strings made of superconducting silver wire. Toem toem toem. The air itself seemed to shatter as the scorpions fired. Bolts of blue-white plasma, thick as temple pillars, lanced into the sky. They didn't just hit the Mirror Centurions, they vaporized them, turning the silver soldiers into clouds of incandescent mercury. One bolt struck a descending troop transport, a jagged shard of black glass, and the resulting explosion was a supernova of violet and azure that rained molten obsidian down onto the campus marshes. Vex. The North Gate. The monolith walkers have breached the Pomerium. It was Legate Kiso, his face half-masked by a cooling shroud to protect him from the radiant heat of the star spawn. He pointed toward the Flaminian Way. 3 monolith walkers, 300-foot-tall tripods of shifting geometric stone and liquid light, were stepping over the city walls. They didn't use blades. They fired singularity spheres, voids of black energy that, upon impact, sucked entire city blocks into a crushing, soundless nothingness. Centurions. On me. We take the bridge. I led the charge down the sloping marble of the Pons Aelius. To my left and right, the last of the 10th and 12th legions followed, their armor reinforced with plates of star iron we had salvaged from the Carthage vaults. We hit the first wave of Mirror Centurions at the center of the bridge. The combat was a visceral, screaming blur of technology and grit. My soul lance hummed in my grip, the captured star energy in its tip vibrating at a frequency that made my teeth ache. I lunged, the white-hot point of the spear piercing the chrome chest of a Mirror Centurion. The alien's reflective armor didn't just break, it shattered into 1,000 shards of glass. A spray of sapphire fluid drenched my cloak, hissing as it met the heat of the soul lance. I didn't stop to breathe. I spun the spear, catching a second infiltrator in the neck seal. The violet energy of its flux gladius hissed against my star iron bracers, the smell of scorched leather and ozone filling my nostrils. I kicked the creature into the Tiber, watching its internal core detonate beneath the dark water in a plume of blue steam. Kiso. The artillery. Sight the primary iris. Above us the Eclipsis Prime was opening. The central underside of the obsidian crown was rotating, revealing a swirling vortex of deep purple energy, the extinction beam. It was the weapon that had erased Alexandria and leveled the forests of Germania. If that beam reached full charge, the 7 hills would become a crater of glass. The generators are redlining, General. If we fire the Janus strike, the city walls will collapse. Kiso screamed over the roar of a passing alien fighter drone. Let the walls fall. Rome is not stone, it is US. I looked toward the Capitoline Hill. There, at the summit of the Temple of Jupiter, sat the Janus strike, the ultimate weapon of the Roman alien hybrid era. It was a massive lens of star glass 50 feet across, focused on a central core of raw, unstable ether. It required the life force of 10 nova cores to fire once. The Eclipsis Prime fired first. A beam of violet light as wide as the Pantheon slammed into the Castel Sant'Angelo. The massive stone fortress didn't crumble, it turned into white-hot liquid. The heat wave was so intense that the hair on my arms singed instantly, and the water of the Tiber began to boil, the steam rising in a blinding gray wall. Hundreds of my men were vaporized in that single strike, their armor becoming their funeral pyres. Fire, Kiso. Fire now. I dived behind a pile of scorched marble as the Janus strike responded. A beam of gold and white light, purer than the sun, erupted from the Capitoline. It was a spear of human defiance, a physical manifestation of the Empire's refusal to die. The beam lanced through the steam, through the smoke, and struck the extinction beam of the mothership midair. The collision was a tectonic event. The two energies fought for dominance, creating a sphere of flickering reality that expanded over the center of Rome. Statues of the gods were pulled into the air by shifting gravity wells. The sky turned a sickening shade of bruised emerald. The sound was not a roar, it was a screech that tore the very fabric of space. The shields are breaking. The Eclipsis Prime began to shudder. The Janus strike was winning. The gold and white beam was pushing the violet fire back into the mothership's gullet. The obsidian hull of the craft began to crack, massive shards of black glass, some 100 paces long, breaking free and crashing into the Forum Romanum, crushing the Senate House and the Temple of Vesta. Legionaries. One last push. For the eagle. I rose from the rubble, the soul lance glowing with a terminal intensity. The mirror centurions were in disarray, their neural link to the mothership flickering. I charged the remaining monolith walker at the end of the bridge. I ran with the speed of a man who had nothing left to lose but his soul. I leaped from the prow of a burning Roman galley that had been tossed onto the bridge, the soul lance leading the way. I didn't aim for the stone legs. I aimed for the liquid light core in the walker's belly. The spear sank deep. The star energy within the lance detonated upon contact with the walker's light. A shock wave of cold, blue pressure threw me 60 feet back into the mud of the riverbank. I hit the ground hard, my vision swimming in red and gold, but I saw the monolith walker freeze and then shatter into a million gray pebbles. Above us the sky ended. The Janus strike finally pierced the heart of the Eclipsis Prime. The mothership didn't explode outward, it imploded. The mile-long obsidian crown was sucked into its own gravity well, a soundless collapse that pulled the clouds and the violet lightning into a single white-hot point of infinite density. Then the point vanished. The silence that followed was terrifying. The mothership was gone. The mirror centurions had fallen where they stood, their chrome armor turning to gray ash. The monolith walkers were nothing but piles of lifeless stone. The sky over Rome was clear for the first time in a generation, a pale, honest blue that seemed too fragile to be real. I pulled myself up, my armor a blackened ruin, my blood mixing with the sapphire oil on the stones. I looked around the eternal city. Rome was a graveyard of marble and machines. The Colosseum was a jagged tooth of scorched stone. The Forum was a field of black glass. The Tiber was a steaming scar. We had won. But there were no cheers. There were only the wounded, rising from the ash like ghosts, and the heavy rhythmic breathing of an empire that had spent its last coin of life. I walked to the edge of the riverbank and looked at my reflection in the cooling water. My face was a map of burns and scars, my hair white with the ash of the stars. I reached down and picked up a single unburnt laurel leaf from the mud. It was a small green thing, stubborn and alive amidst the wreckage of two worlds. The stars are dark, Kiso whispered, limping to my side. He looked at the empty sky, where the last of the alien dust was being carried away by the wind. The stars are just lights again, Kiso, I said, my voice a hollow rasp. The war is over. The harvest is failed. I took off my helmet and let it fall into the Tiber. It made a heavy, definitive splash, the last sound of a soldier of the Iron Age. We stood in the ruins of our civilization, a few thousand survivors in a city built for millions. The empire was dead. The republic was a memory. But the earth was still ours. The iron was still in our hands. The sun began to set over the Janiculum hill, a deep, natural crimson that didn't hum or glow. It was just a sunset. The shadows of the broken pillars stretched long across the ash, reaching for a future that had no names and no maps. Rome was no longer a city of men. It was a scar on the universe, a testament to the night the eagle looked at the sun and didn't blink. The marble is cold. The fire is spent. The iron remains. The dawn will find a world of silence and stone, where the roots of the vine will begin the long, slow work of strangling the chrome. We are the masters of the ruins, the sentinels of the ash. The great extinction has passed, leaving us with a horizon that is finally, mercifully empty. I turn my back to the river and walk into the dark, a lone shadow in a city that has forgotten how to sleep. The Tiber flows on, indifferent to the blood and the stars. The world is whole and the silence is our own.